Alrighty. Well, I guess first and foremost, thank you to everyone who's available and able to make it this evening as we give a rundown of the Corporate Transparency Act, what it means for you as board members, allow an opportunity for you to get any questions answered that you might have through the process and based on the communication that we sent out a little bit earlier this month and sort of the next steps through the end of the year. Before we get started, just to introduce myself, I do know and recognize a number of names from the attendee list. So nice to see a number of you board members who I've courted through the process or managed you directly or been involved with at any points in time. I'm Eric Stazak. I'm our Executive Vice President here at Westward 360. I've been in charge of our CAM operations in some way, shape, or form since about 2017. Recently, over the last couple of months, moving into heading up our business development across the organization. With that, Kimberly Sutherland, who many of you received that communication from, did join our team to head up our CAM operations moving forward as our Senior Vice President of Community Association Management. Kimberly, do you mind giving a little bit of introduction and background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you everyone for joining. As Eric said, I'm Kimberly Sutherland. I recently joined Westward 360. I think I'm here in about 6 weeks in. I'm not new to the industry. I've been managing property or managing community association managers for roughly around 17 years. So I've managed, I've been board members just like you've been, myself. I've managed communities and managed a team of managers. And so I'm excited to be here with Westward 360.
Excellent.
All right, so we can go ahead and get started, Eric. So I'm asking if everyone can hold your questions until the end. There will be a time for some question and answers. You can go ahead and throw them into the chat as well. And then if there is something that Eric feels that we need to stop and address as we move forward, we certainly will do so. But otherwise, we're just going to kind of get through the information and then allow you to hopefully answer all your questions, help put some of your concerns at ease. But then we'll hopefully address them later on if we haven't touched them through the presentation. So first thing again.
This is Leslie Bodell. Can we please have a confirmation for who all is online, as I'm hearing a lot of pings in the background. So let's just be sure who's all on.
Yeah, Leslie, it's board members across the Westward 360 clientele.
No, but I just mean, Eric, who has just joined the meeting?
We have about 70 board members across the portfolio that are on the call right now.
Okay, thank you.
And then I guess, Kimberly, before we get started, just to remind everyone that joined in, like right as the meeting began, we are recording this session. I will be distributing a recording for posterity's sake and for future reference for anyone here or any of your fellow board members that may not have been able to join or would like some additional information. We will be distributing that to everyone along with a copy of this presentation, as it does have some links to some interesting and useful resources that Kimberly provided as well.
Thank you very much. So again, obviously, we're here to talk about the Corporate Transparency Act and what does that mean for you as a community association board member. So the first thing, just sort of touch on, what is it? So it is an act that the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network put into effect effective at the beginning of this year that required all beneficial owners of a company to report in the effort to limit money laundering, terrorism, obviously illicit activities with financial activity, and they want to combine and create a database so that they have this information. Unfortunately, just by design, because they did it as a blanket act against all companies, it does apply to community associations based on your tax status. There's been, I saw some questions on it, about the corporation tax status. All community associations are nonprofits, and even though you're a nonprofit, you are still considered a corporation for the purposes of reporting under the Corporate Transparency Act. So what happens if you don't comply? Meaning if you just say, you know what, I'm not going to provide my information to the government in this way that they want it collected. There are unfortunately some stiff penalties that they've decided to put in play. There are civil penalties up to $591 per day for noncompliance. They can even do criminal penalties up to $10,000 in fines or prison. And then obviously a willful failure to report can come up with $500 per day in civil penalties or up to $250,000 in fines, as well as elevated jail time. So the question is, what needs to be reported? On the association level, it is simply your business name, your principal address that you use, which generally is the management company's address, your jurisdiction of formation, so where are you formed, what state are you incorporated in, as well as your taxpayer identification number, which is the number that you use to file your taxes. As far as board members go, what are they asking for? They're asking for your legal name, they're asking for your birthday, they're asking for your home address, and then they're asking for an identifying number with an image of that document. So that's either your driver's license, a state ID, or if you have a passport. So there's also something to say here when you have to be reported. It's the current board you're going to report. We report it one time. As the board changes, we have to make updates within 30 days, meaning so it's not an annual report. It's not something that we're doing all the time, but we do have to report as your board changes. So if you have 3 board members today, those 3 will be reported. If a board member resigns or when you have your annual meeting, if the board changes, we do have to provide an update to remove the 1 board member and then add in the new board member. And also one thing to note is if you have any unit owners that own 25% or more of your community in total, they are also going to have to individually report. That is generally a little bit uncommon, but you could have 1 board member that maybe owns multiple units and it equals 25% of your unit count. They will have to also report because they do, according to this act, own 25% or more, to which requires them to file. So who can access this beneficial owner information that you're putting out there? So FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Unit, are going to allow the federal, state, local, and tribal officials or other certain foreign officials that submit requests through the governmental agency access to see that information. So essentially what they're doing is they're taking the information they already have. They already have information. You know, we file taxes, we get our driver's licenses and different things. They're just putting it in a different database. So now they're associating you with your association. They're just creating that database and they're going to allow certain agencies to get access to it in the event that they need it. So it will be stored in a secure, non-public database using controls that the government has put in place to secure all that information. So what is Westward 360 doing to help you? So there are simple ways for us. We have partnered with FinCEN Fetch, which is a third-party service that is going to help us do that filing for you. So what we will do with your assistance is we will go ahead and coordinate getting all of your information. We'll file on behalf of the association, as well as provide you a safe and secure way for you to submit that information so that it can be on file with the Financial Crimes Unit, with FinCEN. So FinCEN Fetch is the third party, and so they do have several security measures that they've put in place to ensure that your information is secure within their site as it gets transmitted to FinCEN itself. They use 2-factor authentication, so you will be able to assure that your information, once you load it, you're not giving it to a Westward 360. You are going to be loading it and entering in directly to this database yourself through FinCEN. The cost for Westward 360 to assist you in doing this is it's going to be $250 for the initial filing. And then anytime we have to do an update, the update will be $99. So again, it's $250 for this first time that we have to do it. And then in the event that we have to provide an update because a board member has changed, it will be $99 for that update. So I did include screenshots in here so that because there is concern out there of companies may be trying to phish, right? We're all secure. We all get emails all the time. You've got your cousin in another country who says you've won, $9 million and they want you to claim it. We're all, concerned about the security because this is something that is obviously very high level. So I did put in here images of what the emails that you will get from us will look like, so that you can make sure that you are, when you see an email come across in your inbox, it's not from another third party that's just trying to get your business through buying your information through a database that, board members are a part of, like CAI, or just looking through the Secretary of State. It is an email that is coming from us, and then it will originate from the email address noreply@finsendfetch.com, and it is branded with Westward 360's logo. And the dashboard will already identify your association when you get into it because we're doing the initial setup. And once you get in, it's actually fairly easy. So you get in, you get a dashboard, and it'll just show you, you'll go in and you'll just fill out your little bit of information, you'll upload your document, and then you'll go ahead and hit save and submit. There is a field in there that will ask you if you have a FinCEN Fetch ID already, or I should say a FinCEN ID, because if you are a board member on another community, you're going to have to file more than once. If you own your own company, you're going to have to file more than once. So there are times you are going to have to file in multiple places. So there is a way for you to make sure that you're not getting too many FinCEN IDs. So it will allow you to put your issued FinCEN ID in there as you're going through. So other things that we can do to help your association, because as you recognize, because this was put across two community associations, it's already very difficult for us to find board members or homeowners who want to volunteer to be a board member. We're aware of that. Once you're on the board, you're generally a lifer because you can't find anyone else to sit in that seat to take your place. So what can we do to try and make this easier? Is obviously we want to make sure when you start to go send out your candidate information form for your next board, your next annual meeting, you include information in there that this is something that they're going to have to be, subject to. They're going to have to be able to provide this information if they want to serve. You can work with your association attorney to adopt a corporate resolution that requires candidates and directors to provide the information. So that way, if there are consequences, if they don't, they don't want to do that or they fail to do so, that way it helps take, and shift some liability. So you're going to want to work with your attorney to put some of those rules and resolutions in place. And then you can also have further discussions with your own attorney on ways to avoid liability for failure to comply. So obviously, if there's any concerns that you have, we do recommend that you talk to your association's attorney. So finally, what is being done about this? As we said earlier, this was an inadvertent reach to community associations. I guarantee you that someone was not sitting in a room and said, how do we reach out to these community associations? In the scheme of things, they're so small, you don't have a lot of assets and all that stuff. This is crazy. I'm sure it wasn't done on purpose, but unfortunately, based on governmental ruling, we do have to comply. So Community Associations Institute, which is our industry organization, that's who goes to bat for community associations, for board members, for homeowners, for managers like myself. They go to bat for us, right? That's what they're here. They have filed a lawsuit in order to obtain a declaration that the CTA does not apply to community associations, and that they're challenging that what this is and why it should not hit you guys, at home. So there are a couple things. So in this link, when you get this presentation, there is an action. You can go and you can take action, and you can tell Congress why they should oppose this bill. Why should they support exempting homeowners associations or community associations from being subject to this act? Again, it was inadvertent, but you guys, there's a reason why, you feel that this should not apply to you. So we encourage you to take that action. I'm also in this presentation, when you get it, I've linked you to CAI regularly provides updates on their website. There's a nice video from Tom Skiba, who is the president of CAI, who talks about their the lawsuit and what they're doing, what there's call to action. And then I also put a link in here for our opt-out form, because I do obviously want to touch base. We recognize that, for some of the small associations that, we do manage some small communities, that this expense is something that you did not budget for or didn't plan for. You can self-file by going directly to the FinCEN Fetch website, and you can use your attorney. I will tell you that just based on the quotes that we've received from other attorneys, our fees are definitely lower than other attorneys, but your attorney, or if you're on retainer, they will file that for you. So there was a question I did see, Eric, and I don't know if you know the answer, but yes, that Congress, that form, it is boilerplate. So it will fill it out for you, but then you can also add your own personal touch to it, your personal story about your association, if there is something you wanted to add to it. So that, in short, is the CTA, what it is and how it affects you and what needs to happen next. So now we can go ahead and open it to questions, Eric.
Thanks, Kimberly. Yeah, I answered a couple of questions that were posed in the chat already. And then I do know, Jill, you've had your hand up since the start. If you had an immediate sort of direct question.
Definitely not. My son grabbed my phone, so he must have hit that button. Sorry.
No problem. I know I did answer for Donna's question as well as Barbara's. Let me know if there's any issue with that answer, but we did have one of the attendees ask, if one owner owns 2 units over 20%, but one of the units is owned under an LLC or corporation, do they qualify under the 20% rule?
That would be a good question for the attorney, but off the cuff, no, because it's not the same owner. If, like, let's say, for example, I own a unit and then my husband owns the other unit, we each don't own we each own the unit. We're not owning it combined. So it's going to go by the actual ownership. So if it's owned by a person and then by a company, those are 2 different owners in my opinion, but that would be a good question for the attorney.
Thank you. And this might have been related to what you were answering, Kimberly, but Mark Kovac had asked, is there a boilerplate resolution we can use to present a resolution for adoption that requires board members to comply with data sharing regulations as stated in the CTA? So I imagine more so like you mentioned about including it for like future board members and kind of including those items.
Correct. I guarantee you that, and the attorneys have already drafted that and they have one ready to share with you. We do not have it because we did not draft one, but I guarantee you your attorney has.
Christina Oka had asked if self-filing, is it mandatory to use an attorney?
No, it is not. You can go ahead and self-file yourself.
And then I will, for the folks raising their hands, I will get to you just very shortly. I just want to make sure I get through the chat questions first that have been posted. But Thomas Fitzgibbon had asked, can you include a link to the FinCEN site where we can file directly?
Yeah, we can have that provided when we send this out, Eric. I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, excellent. And along those lines, Janice Monty had asked over at Montclair Station had asked how difficult is self-filing. We're a small association trying to keep costs down.
I did not run through their site to practice. I did run through FinCEN Fetch. I can't imagine it's anything different than what I did, so it's not difficult at all. You would need the tax ID number for the association. So if you have a copy of the taxes available, you can pull it from there. If not, your manager would be able to get that for you.
Thank you. Let's go to Kelly Hancock first, and then we'll get to some more chat questions in a second.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out how to do it as a chat. So on one of the screens, it indicated where it talked about the price. It said something about an annual filing, but am I mistaken to believe that we don't need to do it annually? We only need to update it if something changes. Is that correct? Or is it something that needs to be done on an annual basis?
So that's correct. It's a one-time filing, and then we have to file updates as it changes. So if you're an association, you kind of look at if you have an annual meeting and your board changes annually, then that's where I think the word annual comes into play, but it is one time and then any update.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, to that point, if you find yourself on a board where you guys, to Kimberly's point earlier, have been lifers and you tend to get reelected for that same position and there aren't any real board turnover changes, there aren't going to be the needs to file as frequently as some of our communities where there is a lot more board turnover at those annual meetings and there is a change that has to be submitted throughout the year. Penny, we'll go to your question.
Thank you. I didn't have a question. I'm kind of now figuring out some things since you're having all these hands raising. But I just wanted to make sure that you understand that some of us, like, we don't have attorneys. We don't have an attorney that we use or talk to. We're very small. We're 19 units. And, I just wanted to make that clear because we're starting from nothing here and we don't have anybody really representing us.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have an attorney, obviously we're filing for you. You don't have to have an attorney do this. We would do the filing for you. We just have some clients have an attorney already and they would prefer to use them. They have one on retainer, which I know, for example, KSN includes that as part of one of their retainer levels that they will file as part of the regular retainer fee. And if you had an attorney or wanted one, we could certainly direct you to one, but we will certainly help you through it.
Okay, thank you. And just to reiterate, then we're only doing this when we have board changes on an annual basis.
So we have to do the first filing now. Everyone has to have a filing by the end of the year, and then we will only update it as your board changes.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
We had a question from Brendan asking if we opt out for the initial filing, are subsequent updates charged at the $100 rate or the $99 rate or the $250 initial rate?
So and I believe this, I can get clarification, Brendan, and send it to you, or we can clarify later. I do believe it's going to be the $250 only because our initial filing is still going to come with more information that we have to set up in the system and get done. Instead of, an update is just removing a board member and adding the new board member on. The first filing has a little bit more work to it on our end.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question came in. Do we have to create a FinCEN ID or do you guys handle that?
It gets created with the filing. So if you are filing in multiple places, like, so for example, I did have a board reach out, they file with something else. If you get your FinCEN ID, we would want that because obviously we can include that in the filing when we go to file it, or vice versa. Once we file, and then you would have that to file in your second filing that you have to do.
Yeah, Lois.
Sorry, I was on mute. I just want to make sure I understand you. The initial filing, you said you were going to forward to us the site so that we could file ourselves, or can we not do that ourselves and you guys need to do that, or an attorney?
No, you can file yourself. If Westward 360 is handling it, then we will send you everything through email for you to upload and complete your information. If you wanted to opt out, which the opt-out deadline is the 23rd, otherwise we're going to start filing after that. If you wanted to opt out, you as a board can certainly go to FinCEN directly and file, or you can reach out to your association attorney and then they would file for you.
23rd of September?
Correct.
Okay, so it's either $250 for Westward 360, or have your attorney do it, or do it yourself.
Correct.
And it should be easy enough for us to do it ourselves.
Correct.
Okay, but we need to make a decision soon. Gotcha.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rick, we'll go to you and then go to a couple more chat questions.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So we already have one board member who is probably going to resign due to this. Will you be able to update us on a regular basis about the lawsuit to try and exclude community associations?
Yeah, I think we can talk, Eric, about ways to help communicate as we managers get updates on CAI's, suit, to be able to forward that out to the client. If not, in the presentation, we'll include links to CAI so you can regularly check that yourself as well.
Okay. One more quick question. FinCEN Fetch, how did you come about doing business with them? What kind of due diligence did you do, and what do you know about them?
So that started before I came to Westward 360. So Eric, if you have background, I'm more than happy to have you chime in. But I do understand that the owners of Westward 360 did look at ways so that we could help make this easier for our clients. And there are several partners out there that are doing just this and offering a third-party filing service to management companies, management software providers, such as this, Xvantica and different things. And they met with the company, and based on cost, on what it's going to cost you to be able to do the filing through them, they decided that this was the best choice of the entities that we were able to work with.
Okay, thanks.
And yeah, just to add a little bit of context to that too, Rick, I know that there were a number of companies and options, to Kimberly's point, that our board of directors, the owners of Westward 360, were vetting through the process, and through a number of the kind of industry groups that we're in, with a number of our competitors and a number of other firms in similar parts of the business, even in other states that we often network with and try to understand about how they're handling things like this. I do know that FinCEN Fetch was one of the recommended organizations that a couple of other companies had been in talks with as well. And then through that vetting process between them and a few other options that do a similar service, FinCEN Fetch just seemed to be the one that, from a security standpoint, from a cost standpoint, to help keep the fee to the association as low as possible, as well to us. It seemed like the best marriage of all of those things. So it was definitely a long vetting process before we wanted to proceed with this.
Okay, thank you.
A couple more chat questions, and then we'll go to Kimberly, who Lymore, who raised her hand. But just want to make sure I'm catching everything. I know, David, you actually have your hand up, and you had a chat question in here that I was about to read. If you wanted to take the floor for a sec.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same question. It was about, just clarification. This company, FinCEN, is essentially an intermediary, a third party, right? The same way that TurboTax will handle filing your taxes, and then IRS is the final governmental department that is actually gathering that information. Is that a fair understanding of what this is happening, and that's why we are using FinCEN? Yeah,
so FinCEN Fetch would be like more analogous to what you're mentioning. So FinCEN Fetch would be the intermediary, kind of similar to your TurboTax to IRS comparison. But FinCEN itself is actually a department within the federal government at this point. That they're actually the department to whom this has to be reported.
Oh, okay, understood. I got a little bit confused there. Thanks.
No problem.
So there was a question, Eric, really quick, that just because it was above David, so I didn't know where you are in order, but Barbara had asked about clarification about the $99 update fee. It's per update. So if you have one board member or 5 board members change at a time, it's $99 for that one update. It's not per board member. It's just for per update. So if you have a board that somehow you're changing board members 2-3 times a year, it could get costly, but it's per update, not per board member.
Thanks, Kimberly. Mark had asked, has our association confirmed a desire to have Westford file on our behalf? Is there a form that must be submitted, or is there a deadline by which we must notify of a desire to opt out? I know Kimberly touched on that just a couple minutes ago, Mark. So that 23rd date is the magic number there. If you or anyone else needs that form resent or that communication resent or a link to that, do let us know. But those were distributed a few weeks back at this point. So if there is anything that you didn't see, in order to follow the instructions to opt out, just let us know and we'd be happy to redistribute that.
The link will be in the presentation, but we're only looking for affirmative opt-out. So if you don't respond, then we're assuming you're opting in, and we're going to go ahead and file on your behalf. We just wanted the affirmative opt-out, so the board was making that decision and we weren't doing that for you, so that you are aware that we weren't filing.
Excellent. And a bit of a related question, a little bit further down, just from Janice, that I'll address now. She mentioned, I'm confused about due dates. Is the deadline for filing before January? What is the 23rd of September? Yeah, just to clarify, the 23rd of September is our internal date, Janice, for needing direction one way or the other, just because obviously to get through and file on behalf of hundreds of associations that are managed by our company. We do want to set a good benchmark date so that we can get our ducks in a row and make sure that we know exactly who we're filing for. So we just need to know by September 23rd what your intention is for Montclair Station in this case. And then the filing itself will just be due by the end of the year prior to January 1, regardless of who files it on your behalf. Kathy Hansen asks a good question. When someone leaves the board, will their information be removed from the FinCEN database?
That's a good question, and I just made a note to follow up to get clarification because I don't have that answer. I'm assuming that it will go to a old beneficial owner information, like historical, so that they have a running tally of who was versus who wasn't at the time. But I can get clarification and we can circulate that update for sure.
And then Vera Cap had asked, don't we need to update new IDs if they change, example, driver's license renewals? So like I imagine if something expires.
So they have not put that in place to where that comes up that they say, but I can't say that that won't be something that they put out there, which then will make this a more frequent filing. I think as of right now, they just want the information to start.
Excellent. We had a question from Kimberly Jackson. We just had a nomination and vote for 2025 to 2026 board members less than 2 weeks before we were given this information about the new requirement. Had we received the information prior, it may have affected nominations and our election. How difficult is it for newly elected board members to choose not to serve in light of this development?
So yeah, so that's obviously something we all in the industry have been waiting. You'll see a bunch of attorneys and other entities are out there doing similar to what we're doing now, making you aware. Everyone was hopeful that this wasn't going to be something that we have to handle this year. We were all hoping that CAI would have been successful with their lawsuit. And when it became evident that that wasn't going to happen, we all turned around and said, all right, well, now we need to plunge forward and now we need to start educating everybody. So I do want to say that, yes, obviously this did go into play, effective in January, and we had all this time, but we were extremely hopeful, not just Westwood 360, but every company in the industry, CAI, all of our business partners, we were all very hopeful that this wasn't going to have to affect you. So now that there is, we're making this push. So of course, board members, if they really do not want to submit this information, which again, sort of, not to make light of it, but it is information the government already has. All they're doing is they're just asking you to submit it in a certain way to where they have it now in this database over here versus, at the IRS when you file taxes. They have this information about us already, so they're just trying to collect it in a different way. So if you do have board members who are very still hesitant in doing this and do not want to serve, My suggestion would be to obviously put out a newsletter to try and get other people to volunteer to serve on your board so that you can still operate and you're not hurt by this as much as possible. We're certainly here to help you, to help your membership understand the importance of serving on the board, so that obviously we can still make sure that you have a board to continue to operate.
Kimberly Limore, I know you've had your hand up for a bit.
And I think that question that I had just got answered, because I believe some of my board members will not want to share that information, and we are going to be crippled because it's hard enough to get people to serve on a board. No matter how many times you tell how important it is, we barely get a quorum at the meetings, and it is going to be very, very difficult.
So one thing to note, just if you anticipate running into issues with this, I don't know if we have anyone on the call today from this particular community, but we had this same concern with a community that we manage out in Naperville that struggles perennially just with ever getting board interest. And they actually ran into a constraint recently where one of their board members, for health reasons, had to leave the board on a temporary basis. So they were left to one board member. And so that brought up a number of sensitivities, right? And that from an operations and just decision-making standpoint, they can't rely on one person because now every decision is completely like it's the direction of one single individual, no matter how good he is at being a board member. But B, the other concern was the FinCEN filing. So I know in talking with him, he was like, well, we don't have a full board now. Like we're going to be, like through no fault of our own, going to be running into this issue where we have no board members essentially to report on at the end of the year. So what did help is that we actually not as like a veiled threat or anything, but we did send out and just start communicating with homeowners, just letting them know the importance of it and the potential risks that come involved with it. So not only are there the liability problems that you all face as board members when people just don't want to join under regular circumstances, but in this case, when Kimberly had touched on some of the fines, like that's real money, right? So for a lot of associations, I mean, if you don't file on time, and if you don't have a full board to be able to submit on that paperwork, you're creating a situation where the association could be subject to fines up totaling $10,000 or more. So what we kind of did strategy-wise with the board member was we let owners know that, hey, no one wants a $10,000 special assessment to have to become suddenly necessary because these daily fines are racking up and the government has found a way to penalize, small community associations that are just trying to do their best. And it actually got some people out of the woodwork to say, hey, against my previous judgment and against, what I've believed in the past, I am going to help the board out in this case and try to make sure that we avoid some of those things. So I think conversely, it can have a little bit of a motivating effect when you phrase it that way, when you let people know that like, hey, we don't want to have a $10,000 surprise or a multi-$100 surprise, even with fines that could have been avoided if we just had people engaged and willing to serve on the board. So just a little anecdote that I'd like to share because it was very real as of like 2 weeks ago with a community that I'm involved with.
Yeah.
Curtis, I saw your hand up first amongst this group.
Yes, I did submit a question, but I wanted to know if we choose to self-file, are picture IDs required in the filing, or can we simply provide passport numbers, driver's license numbers, names, addresses, etc.? Are pictures mandatory?
Yes, pictures are mandatory. So
Okay.
they want the number and then the document showing evidence of that number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick note in the chat. I know that just Vera asked an apt question. Doesn't CAI have an October court date? Yes, it does. I believe that court date is October 11th, I think, for the first court date after they filed their lawsuit last week. And that was the Tom Skiba from CAI, the CEO, had mentioned and put together a video through CAI's site that Kimberly linked to in the presentation as well. Kimberly Jackson, your question.
Yeah, I was just following up. Thank you for answering my question before. I was just following up with, I don't know quite if this is a question or more than a comment. Because this is, and as a lot of people on this call have indicated, it's hard to get members now or people in the community, homeowners, to want to be on the board now with this. My concern is with what you were talking about before is it could become a lifer situation anyway. And I think that it would have been a lot easier to find a replacement if this was not put into place. So I think that my question is more around, are there any exceptions? Because I had not planned, even before this came up, to go beyond this next year. The bottom line is I have a job that's going to require me to do a lot more travel in the next year or two, and I'm simply not going to have the time. So this is, I would rather get out sooner than later if this is going to be an issue. And again, that was my question around if I had known sooner, and I realized that you were waiting on some on the appeals, but just having information is key, information is king. And I would have made some other decisions as with other board members. So I'm just wondering if there's any advice around that. If not, then I will consult, my own personal attorneys. But now this is pigeonholing people into a situation where they can't get out. And the bottom line is that I'm going to have to get out whether this happens or not due to job obligations. I'm just not going to have the time. And now this is going to make it hard for us to get another board member in my place, whereas we could have maybe eased people into it and we could have gotten a board member to replace me had I known this before we had elections.
Yeah, that is something that's difficult. We can do is we can certainly help you, reach out, create newsletters, put the right language around it to make it enticing for other people to want to still be on the board, because there's still important stuff to be done in your community, right? This is just a small piece. Your community is just a larger portion. Everyone of your owners cares about where they live, right? They want to see it succeed. They want to see work get done. And so if you don't have a board, you're limited to what you can do, which then just ultimately it hurts the association as a whole. So we can certainly help your association put together language to try and get volunteers to, if you're having struggles, to do that.
Okay, I appreciate that. We'll be contacting you about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jessica Barr, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Yeah, I have two questions just in responses that you've given. If you don't have a full board, then we could be fined for that potentially as well. Or did I understand that?
No, so if you have, let's say, 2 board members, you're supposed to have 3, you have a vacancy, we can only file with what we have. But as soon as you find that 3rd board member, then we will have to provide that update. So we will only file with your current sitting board. They're not going to go, to my knowledge, and check, oh, your declaration says you should have 5, you only have 3, and now you don't have people. But if you do have sitting board members, they have to file. So again, we'll just file with who we have.
Okay. And then one additional, you said there was a court date in October. So let's say something goes through and we aren't required by the end of the year to file this information. Would the board be, or the HOA be refunded the $250 or no?
Yes, correct. If we have not filed by, so obviously we're still working through all this, it's perhaps I can check with the team. Are we going to wait and see what happens at this October court date? We can certainly work on that, but we would be billing this towards the end of the year for sure. So, if we don't file for you, then we're not going to charge you.
Okay, thank you.
Eric Kolke, you've got your hand up, it looks like. Steve V, do you have your hand up?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want to make sure I understand the scope of this properly. The $250 is for the association, not for the individual board members, correct?
Correct.
All right, so it's the association gets charged the $250 for this initial filing. We have 3 board members. I'm looking at the I was looking at the BOI e-filing site at fincen.gov, and it looks like one person fills this out and supplies everybody's IDs, just based on what I'm looking at the site. So it's my understanding that Westward will fill that site out, and we just provide our IDs via the FinCEN Fetch site. Is that how this works?
Correct. What's going to happen is we're going to set it up as the association, and then we're going to add you as a participant, which will then get you to receive an email to then to enter your information and load your document copy.
Okay, so for me to avoid the $250, I can Westward can provide me with the data that I need to put into the FinCEN site, and I can act as the fetcher with my other 2 board members to collect their data and put it in all at once. And that
Correct.
should accomplish this, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to fill out this FinCEN sites before for ownership of foreign investments, and it doesn't look any different. It looks just kind of like the same thing. They're just recycling it for this purpose, it appears.
Yeah, it seems painless with the data entry part.
Okay, but I've got 2 other board members that are going to have to be willing to share their stuff for us to do it. But if they want some kind of anonymity, then we should pay the money and let Westward do it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me now? It's Eric.
Yeah, Eric, we can hear you.
Okay, so just some quick questions. The business name that you're going to need when that email goes out, is that the association name or is that the business where I work?
No, it's the association. So
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. All right. Do you know when this email might go out?
So our opt-out date for everyone, to allow everyone the opportunity to do it themselves, is the 23rd. So
Right.
we're going to say within, probably a few weeks after that, because we're going to, we have to gather stuff. So I'm going to look to see if we can provide sort of an update to everybody to let you know that, hey, it's coming. So you
Right.
at least know to look for it, and it's not a spoof email that's out there.
Okay. And this ID that you mentioned, is that going to be on the email that gets sent out?
So the FinCEN ID you will not have until after you file. So you will not have one unless you filed with someone else. So let's say you're on the board somewhere else and you file, you'll have a FinCEN ID at that point.
And how do I get it? Just get it emailed to me, or
Once you file, then yes, you would get one.
okay. And they emailed my ID to me after I filed.
That I didn't get that far because I didn't file as myself. I just went through it in screenshot, but I can certainly find that out for you, how it comes.
Am I gonna need it again? I guess I might.
You would probably need it if you're going to file, either for a second opportunity or eventually file for yourself. If this has to keep going, you will need it.
Okay, that's good to know. And then the last question is, after I file, do you know that I filed?
We'll know, yes, because we'll see that you've completed the filing. So what happens on my end is I have an administrative dashboard, so I know who I sent it to. So
Okay.
I know when you've opened the link and filed, and I know when you're getting reminders that you haven't filed as well.
Okay.
So yes, I can see that.
Okay, well, it's good. All right, that's it for me.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
A couple questions that I think I didn't go back to in the chat. Just one from Thomas Fitzgibbon, just if there were any specific file types that ID images need to be in, like, for example, PDF versus JPEG. Kimberly, are you aware of any
If
limitations?
I remember correctly, it was either format when I went
Okay.
through it.
Excellent. And then Christina Oka had a follow-up question. Can some sort of confirmation of choosing the opt-out be sent out this week?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to share here. My email address is on the screen. It'll be part of that presentation. If you want to just reach out to me, I can confirm we received your opt-out.
Perfect. And I think the question after that from Patrick Davis was actually answered by one of your answers to Eric's question
Okay.
regarding filing FinCEN direct. Okay, good. He gave the thumbs up. Going to the queue, Vernon, you are actually on. What did you have for us?
I have two questions. Number one is the FinCEN linked to the annual report filing? Because in an annual report filing, you need 3 board members to be on the board in order to be legible for being an association. If we do not have 3 board members, is the association dissolved?
Right. It is not linked to the Secretary of State annual report filing that you file with the Secretary of State of Illinois for sure. And then I'm sure other states as well have similar corporate filings on an annual basis. It is not linked to that.
Okay, but what if we don't have the 3 board members?
Then we're just filing with what we have. They're not going, at least as far as my knowledge, they are not going to come and say, you only filed 2, where's your 3rd? We're going to submit the 2, those 2 are going to file, and it's going to say filing complete. If there is an association that's concerned because there is a vacancy, I would certainly reach out to the association's attorney to get a formal legal opinion to make sure that there's no concern. But as far as I'm aware of the process, there is no concern.
So as far as the annual report filing goes, if you have 2 unit owners, would the association still be a legal entity with 2 board members instead of 3? As per the Illinois Condo Act, you have got to have 3 valid board members running the association.
So if you're talking about the Secretary of State annual filing, in order to be considered a valid corporation at least in the state of Illinois, I'm not familiar with other states off the top of my head, but within the state of Illinois, you have to have 3 board members in order to be a valid corporation within the state of Illinois. That's independent of this filing with FinCEN. 2 different types of filings.
It's going to put a big problem for all units, associations that have 2 board members then.
Well, only if in the Secretary of State, yes, that's going to be a concern, and we can address that separately. If you have questions, you can come see me and we can figure out how to resolve that. But as far as FinCEN Fetch goes in the CTA, it should not affect it.
Okay.
Send him an email.
Thank you.
That was fun.
I told him congratulations, but you told us what the hell is going on.
Rick, could we go to you next?
Sorry for the delay. Yeah, excellent presentation. A lot of information. Thank you for that. I just want to circle back on the date. So after we do not opt out, you will be sending out the form for each board member to complete, and that's going to each individual board member directly from you.
Correct. It's going to come from that no reply at fincenfetch.com email address.
Okay, and you will know when they do or do not return it. Who will you let the board president know? Will you let the property manager know so that we can do some follow-up? How will that work?
Yeah, there will be some automated follow-ups with the individual who did not respond. And if we are still seeing after some time that there is no response, then yes, the manager is going to have to notify the board so that perhaps maybe they're not seeing it. Maybe it's going into junk mail. But that's why my goal is to, once we're ready to start sending this out, to at least send a mass notification to you to let you know, hey, we're sending this out. Make sure you check your junk mail just in case to make sure you receive it. But our managers right now are going through everything to make sure we have your email addresses correct so that we can assure that we're getting it to the right place.
Okay, thank you. This may be jumping the gun a little bit, but is it quote unquote legal for the association to pay for credit monitoring like LifeLock for board members? If there's some concern about security and information being out there any more than it already is, but is that an option, do you think?
Sorry, repeat that. What exactly is the question, Rick?
The question was, in your opinion, can the association reimburse board members for getting credit protection, like something like LifeLock.
Oh, kind of like as like a like an administrative like digital expense or like software expense for like the year for something like that.
If there's a concern about security and information being out there, I've already suggested to a couple of our board members that they lock their credit with the credit bureaus, but maybe reimbursing them for annual membership to LifeLock might be an option. Just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. It looks like David, and then we've got Marcos after David, in terms of those with their hands raised.
Thank you. Another question. This is more about understanding the legal like boundaries between Westward and the board association. We're in this call because we're in this partnership, right? Of like managing our buildings, our communities, etc. What are like? Do you have Westward has any responsibility of actually doing these filings, or do they do we share any responsibilities as a board or Westward into some things, or it's completely separate? Right, that you're just helping out to the board to comply with these new mandates for these things. I'm just trying to get a little bit of clarification on that end.
Yeah, correct. So we're here to partner with you to help you facilitate this. So we're willing to help you do it and make it easy for you, which is where we partnered with FinCEN Fetch so that we can at least get everything together and help manage that reporting for you, just to try and ease the burden of that for you. But it's not something we have to do for you, but it's something that we're trying to do to help make this easier. Does that answer your question?
So Westward doesn't get into any trouble if nobody under your managing company doesn't file anything, right? It just there's the legal repercussions for you. Okay, but it goes directly only to the board and the okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And then Marcos.
Hi there, everybody. Yeah, so I just want to clarify. I don't mean to over clarify. So the $250 fee is really like a sort of Westward facilitation fee for helping to ensure that this happens. Because if it doesn't happen, then obviously the board is unstable, is at risk for not being compliant with the government expectation. Is that correct?
So we are paying. So we're paying FinCEN Fetch. And then so the fee is going towards we're paying them, and yes, the administrative part of helping facilitate the filing.
And so then if you opt out, then there's still, do you know is there still a charge for the filing? Is it the same charge, or is that charge for Westward facilitating the
so if you opt out, there's no charge to the association because we're not filing for you.
Mm. But in terms of filing on, you said you're going to provide a link for people to file if they opt out. Is there a charge for the?
No. If you self-file, there's no charge.
There's no charge. So the fee is just a systemic fee that would happen in transition for the convenience of keeping the collaboration stable. And would other agencies then be forced to file different? They would, identify the charge that they would create the charge that they want to file or charge for that processing. And as far as the $99 update, is that also true then if you opt out and you're updating because your board is doing it independently, they are not being charged for a $99 update? But Westward is. I just want to, and being transparent, I just want to make sure that there's a transparency about the numbers.
Yes,
Okay.
If you are not using Westward 360, there are no charges from us. If you use your attorney, there's a charges from them. If you self-file, then there are no charges.
Okay.
So Dell will pay. Westward 360 is going to pay for us if you're not using your own attorney. That's what you're saying. If we filed Westward 360, that means they paid for the fee.
Well, I think it's just a 250 feet for all.
I
of
think
us.
so. I don't think it's per person, because they can't hear us. I don't know why we're not on this.
We can,
can
we can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay, because we were wondering, we went on here for a long time.
Okay.
We weren't able to.
We're-
ask any
Okay,
questions.
we're wondering, it's Lois and Ralph from, River Forest Wine. All right, we're wondering, the 250 is for everybody on the board or individual filing?
Everybody, it's one fee to file
That's a
for the
one-time
board.
gift, $50.
Correct.
That's right.
And then it's $99 each time we have to update. So we file now.
And
and
I
then
understand,
okay.
I understand. Okay.
So does this have any effect if you're an owner in this condominium association and you're serving, you're paying taxes, you're paying your insurance? Does that have anything to do with this?
No, this is something that the government just, decided based on, I'm sure, some financial crimes over the years that they've come across, that they decided that they needed to create this database of beneficial owners of various corporations so that they can, in the event something comes up, questions are asked, they can do some further investigation. Unfortunately, it just overreached to community associations because by nature, you are a qualifying corporation.
So then again, going back to the filing, if we file each individual together, Cortland, Westward 360 will pay the fee?
No, if we file for you, so if your association uses Westward 360 to do the filing for you, the association is paying a fee to Westward 360 to use for the convenience of having us do the filing as well as using the FinCEN Fetch software in order to do the filing.
Okay, we understand.
All right, so you're gonna send us all the forms, right? So we could do it.
Correct, yes. It's going to be a link directly to the site and you'll just go and click on it, create an account, and then enter in your information and upload the image of the document.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I like, or the other people have said, it's very difficult to get people. There's 88 units in here. It's the same people that serve every year.
Yep.
We're short as it is, and this is gonna put a nail in the coffin, I'll tell you right now.
So we're just about at time. We had an hour budgeted. So if we can, we've got 3 hands up. If we could get to Lois and then Marcos and then Donna. If there are any further questions after that, if we could, feel free to do follow up with us via email, as Kimberly had mentioned. You can follow up with me as well. But if we can fit in these questions, I know everyone wants to get on with their evenings, I'm sure, as well. But Lois, could we start with your question?
Yeah, mine's real quick. It's regarding
Yeah.
if we're going to file this ourselves and we do have an update, are you guys as Westford going to update us and let us know as a board that this needs to be done? Or is that something we need to keep, as ourselves to make sure we keep it updated?
If you're keeping track of it and you're filing it, we're not necessarily tracking it. Our managers will know to just be educated and remind you, hey, board members changing, you need to make sure you file the update. But it is something you will have to track on your own.
Because we would have to file anyway with Secretary of State as well. And so when we do that, we just do the same at the same time.
Well, sort of. So the Secretary of State does not require that you file the update when it happens. You have to file your annual report annually, so sometimes that's stale, but the FinCEN filing has to be filed 30 days from the update, so that you will be filing more frequently.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Sure thing, Lois. Marcos?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't finish my question before. So just in review, just for accessibility's sake, so the pro is that you're in compliance with the government expectation. The con is really that people are concerned about more sharing of data and information. That seems to be what people are saying. I just want to make clear about that. So it seems to me that systemically, I went to school for that it's a collaborative moment, because if I left the board tomorrow, I'm not saying I would, but if I did, then Westwood would initiate this as an orientation or an onboarding for new members, because of course it would lead to stable communities for that collaboration, to know that this is a part of the expectation, right? So that would be Westward's intention because if you opt out, the good thing about paying Westward is that it just becomes an embedded part of being in compliancy with the government, and then relying on boards to independently file seems a lot more dicey because they won't be able to transition that systemically. But Westward is interested also in keeping those good collaboration stable, right? I mean, that would be part of. It's not going to work if your board just falls apart and becomes subject to fines.
Yep, you're correct. And we also just, we didn't touch on it earlier, but we've built in processes. So in the event that, let's say you go to list your home for sale tomorrow and we get a paid assessment letter request from you and we know you're on the board, a red flag is going to go off in our system so that we know a board member is looking to move. So at least we can make sure that we're staying on top of it, that the board is going to change and we're on top of any update that might need to take place. So we're building in controls around that.
I'm glad that Vernon is on there with me. He's about, and I think the thing about it is that there's already a certain paranoia about, the aspect of just, collaborating with agencies and, that trust factor. So I'm glad I'm on it too, to know more about it. So thank you for that. But I think that's the sell, is just trying to figure out in the end what this really means and why we're doing it. I think I got it. So I can take that back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to whet the dialogue about what that guy said about LifeLock. I think it is a good conversation. It is a lot of time. I'm on 3 boards. It does take a lot of time to do this work. Not that you're going to make a profit from it, but it is really interesting to figure out if there's a way to incentivize the board membership, not by pay, but by at least some sort of covering or benefit of, like, the thing that you might be concerned about, like your data loss. That's interesting.
Definitely something to ask the attorney on, just because I know, for example, if a board wants to be a member of CAI, you can build that into your budget to pay for the membership for board members to be a part of the industry organization. So it's just, it's a little bit different than that, but it is that the board is choosing to pay for something for the benefit of the board member in that respect. So that might be a question to ask your attorney.
Okay, thank you.
And if you don't have one, we can help get one for you.
Awesome. Donna and then Lynn.
Yes, my question is very quick. I wanted to know, could you upload, if we decided to go ahead and to use Westward to file on our behalf, would we be able to then assist another board member in uploading their documentation?
I believe so. You would just have to, it's a link unique to them. So you would just have to be in a room with them, or at least have access to their link. If it wasn't something that they could do themselves, they would have to forward you the email with the link.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
And if you did have a board member that is technology challenged, we could look to having them come into the office where we could help them if that was necessary. We're looking at making some office hours available for that instance, because we do know we have some board members that might, not be as technologically advanced as some of the others. So,
okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good reminder that on that, Kimberly, because I know that we might have some folks on who maybe have a manager who does like office hours on site occasionally, or have any admin staff, or maybe your manager comes by on a more frequent basis, and there might be an opportunity for that. So do get in touch with your management team as well. If you do know that you've got a board where there are some tech sensitivities or age sensitivities that might make this a bit more onerous on them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Lynn?
Hi, thank you guys. I just have a really quick question for any board members that were unable to be on your presentation. Will you be emailing this presentation out to the people that were on it, or
Yep.
how's that
Yeah,
going to work? Just so I can get it over to some board members that weren't able to attend.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get the video recording sent over as well as a link to the presentation so that we can send it to everyone that was on here and then anyone that wasn't as well. So I know that we had a pretty big invite list, but I imagine people get busy and conflicts come up. So we will make that available for you as a manager to share with your boards, and then we will send it out to those boards as well.
Great. Thank you guys so much and great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alrighty.
So I think we've hit all the questions. So I want to thank you again for taking time out of your Monday evening to spend with Eric and I as we go over something that I know is challenging. And again, this presentation is going to have a link to take action to send as many emails as you can to your different members of Congress and add your personal story for those of you who have boards that communities are going to have a challenge in getting people to serve, and explain why it's tough. And voices like yours definitely will help. And there are other education opportunities within CAI also that you might be able to benefit from. So those links will be available for you just to help keep us with this fight. Obviously, we're here to support you, and so is CAI. So that is the ultimate goal.
Thank you, Kimberly. And just a quick plug for those on here that are looking for more opportunities like this one, just because I think that these have been really informative. If we have any folks that were on the insurance one that we did back in July, I felt like that was a nicely attended event. We will be doing another one, another webinar on October 1st that invites will be going out for regarding reserve studies. So be on the lookout for that if that is going to be something that strikes your fancy, if it's something, especially as legislation around that might be changing in the future, and the need for it becoming more and more pressing. I know they've already been required for our Nevada communities, but in the state of Illinois and elsewhere, they're going to become much more of a sensitive topic. So be on the lookout for that invite coming in the next couple days as well. And then one final question. This is a great one because I am currently working on this. We have a blog section currently on the Westward 360 site, and we're going to link it to the Advocate property management site as well for those clients. But we are redesigning a section of it where we will post links to these webinars so that you guys have them for posterity's sake, and you don't have to dig into your email to find old links. So that is under construction right now. We should have that coming in the next few weeks as a repository for those items. So be on the lookout for that in the future. And then you'll have access to those things going forward. Alrighty. Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Wonderful job, Kimberly.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Kimberly, are
Go
you
ahead.
Kimberly Sutherland
thank
from
you.
Bloom Township High School?
Thank you.
No,
You're
I went
not,
to
okay.
Hoffman, but no, there's a couple of us in Illinois, but that's not me.
Because she's an attorney as well.
Oh.
That's what I
Well, I'm not an attorney. I like to play one on TV, but I'm not an
okay.
attorney.
Just
But yeah, no,
just
not
wanted
me.
to check. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
See.